Last time we ended at chapter 12,
Some prayer where we
verse,
have done.
we ended at chapter 12, verse 12, but we will begin verse 12 again. Um, Sir hasn't come, Asutosh sir, so I will recite. So it says, Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasa, jnanat dhyanam vishishti, dhyanat falatyagas, tyagat shantiranantaram. So knowledge is better practice. Without knowledge or without discernment, meditation, knowledge is better than practice without discernment. Meditation on God is superior to knowledge, and renunciation of the fruit of action is even superior to meditation. For peace immediately follows renunciation. So, we were talking about renunciation of fruit last time, and we left it at that. So, would we want to pick up that discussion, or is it clear? It says knowledge is better than practice. So going on practicing without thinking is not advised here. So practice, whatever we do, ultimately has to lead to some kind of knowledge. And then when that knowledge comes, meditation on that knowledge is superior. Getting established in that knowledge. But knowledge should not be something which is temporary, which is fleeting, but you have to be established in that knowledge. You start living that knowledge, you imbibe that knowledge. And then the next thing is the renunciation of the fruit of action. So there is no I sense then. It's all dedicated to God. And then when that happens, there is peace. So till that step is not done, there is no peace. Till we have not completely surrendered or dedicated to God, or we have transcended the I, there is no me, then peace follows immediately. So we finished till here last time, and now maybe we can go on to the next verse. So the next 7 verses are describing the qualities of a bhakta. So from verse 12.13 to verse 12.15, there will be 36 qualities of a bhakta. 36.
36.
36 qualities of a bhakta. And in verse 20, we wind up the chapter. So from now onwards, we are just going to discuss the qualities of a bhakta. Because the Lord says, whatever you do, you have to be a bhakta. You have to surrender everything to a higher principle. Now, the question in the chapter was, should we surrender to a God with form or to God without? So that is immaterial because both are same. What is important is transcending the other. So he says, so we are on verse 13. It says, Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitrak karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankar sama dukkha sukha kshami. So we'll go word by word. Adveshta. So one who has no dvesh towards anybody. No dvesh. Adveshta. Sarva bhutanam. It's not adveshta towards one's family or one's, near and dear ones, but adveshta. So also it's sometimes, it goes beyond the family to the society, to the country, and then it becomes, okay, it's my country. Even that has to stop. It has to widen all over. Sarva Bhutanam. So there is no limitation over here. It says Maitri Bhav. Obviously, there is no Dvesh. Then the next step is everybody. Then Karuna, compassion. And then nirmama. There is no mama, no kindness, sense of I, no attachment, without attachment, no without egoism. And then dukkha. So Neelji, I think you'll have to keep yourself on mute.
So sorry. So sorry.
No, no worries. Not your fault. The birds are free. They can.
Okay.
So it says ahankar, without egoism, sama dukkha sukhak, and shami, forgiving, patient. So these are the qualities which are listed. There will be many more. So if anybody has to say anything about this list of 7 qualities in this verse. Okay, they are difficult, but one has to go on practicing. We spoke about abhyas.
I think it will be better. It will be better if you could just repeat it.
Okay.
The
All
7 is, one is adveshta. Adveshta is talking about dvesha or what?
Adveshta sarva bhutanam. No dvesh towards anybody. Adveshta.
Okay.
Adveshta sarva bhutanam. That's one. Then maitra.
Yes.
Maitra is the second one. Friendly attitude. Friendly towards, see, the Yoga Sutra, as you know, describes Maitri towards people who are happy.
What?
People who are happy. Maitri, the feeling of happiness comes towards people who are happy. That means when you see somebody who's happy, you have a friendly attitude and not a attitude of dvesh or envy. So you're happy in another person's happiness. Maitri, that's what it means.
Yes.
Yeah. So, so one day I asked Dr. Saab that why can't you be happy towards the dukhi? So he says then that emotion can overpower you. So you see, Maitri is, they've described it, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekshana.
Yes.
So Upekshana, which is that is indifference. Maitri, Karuna. Karuna, compassion, which is empathy, which is maintaining a distance. You are compassionate towards a human being, but now if it is not your duty, what can you do? See, the duty idea comes there also, Swadharma. I can't go on helping everybody who is distressed. But I can't shun them. I mean, that karuna is something, sometimes people just want to vent out. They don't want material help or any kind of other help. But sometimes you're just there. Your presence is enough. Karuna.
Karuna towards sad people.
Yeah.
Dukhi.
Dukhi. Yeah.
Yes.
So sometimes it's no, all the times I think it's very important if people are very aggrieved, they are sorrowful, they are sad, and they approach you. I think a good idea is to maintain your distance and first hear them out. It's not necessary to take action for, every kind of emotion. So that is the difference. There is a difference between Maitri and Karuna.
Yeah.
So Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. Second is Maitra. Third is Karuna. Then fourth is Nirmamo. Nirmama. There is no mama, feeling of mindless attachment. Then is Nir-ahankar. No egoism. Nirmamo is kind of a possessiveness. Nir-ahankar is flaunting or, ahankar is more of flaunting or I sense. There is a fine difference between all the qualities, so they are listed separately. Nirmamo, nirahankar, without egoism. Then sama dukkha sukha. I am sama, I am the same, I am balanced in sorrow and in happiness. Because I understand that all of it is temporary, or whatever the reasons are, but I am balanced. Then kshami, which is being patient, or which could also be forgiving. So these were the 7 qualities in this verse. Shall we do the next verse?
Nirmamo means egoless or what?
Nirmamo is possessiveness. Nirmama, it's mine, mineness, non-attachment. Nirmamo could also be non-attachment, or the sense of mineness is not there. I and mine. And
Because nirmam in Hindi is cruel. Nirmam.
Acha.
In Hindi it is cruel.
Okay.
Now it is using the nirmamo.
So could be that also. Not being cruel. Yeah. See, each word so many meanings sometimes that we can take it. That's also not wrong. Not being cruel.
In the Hindi version of the Gita Press book, it simply says Mamta se rahit.
Okay.
Mamta se rahit. Okay. Why? No attachment.
No attachment. Yeah. Without mindness or without attachment is the English translation. Without mindness or mera.
So the 7 qualities.
Yes, 7 are in this verse. And then we shall go on to the next verse. Sir, will you read 12.14? Sir, you're on mute. Okay, I'll read it, sir. Santushta satatam yogi yatatma drudha nischaya mai arpita mano buddhir madabhakta same priyaha. So he says, who is dear to me? He's again going on describing Santushta Satatam. This is one quality. Santushta Satatam. Who's a yogi who's always Satatam Santushta. Ever content. Yatatma. Self-controlled. Drudha Nischaya. Possessed of firm conviction. His Nischay is firm. Drudha. He's unshakable. He's determined. Then Mai Arpita Mano Buddhi. So his man and buddhi is arpit, is dedicated to me. His buddhi also. His man also. So the first one, Santushta Satatam. He's content and ever content. Yatma, self-controlled, always in his self, controlled, never out of his self. Drudha Nischaya. And Mai Arpita Manobuddhi. So these qualities have to be reflected, thought upon, and in little ways, if we can practice, memorize them, and then they come to mind in certain situations, like satatam, santushta satatam. This santusht or santosh is a niyam which has to be practiced every day in a small way. Every day, if we kind of practice santosh, it would go a long way. So we can take up these qualities for practice, daily practice. In little ways can we control ourselves, where he says yatatma, self-controlled. During the day, in our speech, in our actions, in our thinking, in small ways, if we can control ourselves, then when we make some decisions, are we able to stick to those decisions? Small decisions. Or do we say it's okay, it's not important? Then Mai Arpita Mana Buddhi. Can we go on dedicating our mind to God? So I think that could be like, can we just remember Him? Can we fill our mind with Him for some time in a day, for a minute in a day? Even if it is for 1 minute, with full attention, can we dedicate our mind to Him? Can we not think, use our intellect? In that 1 minute also, we can use our intellect. I'll do it later. I should do this. I should do that. Can we dedicate our mind and intellect to Him? So in small ways, I think we can practice it. That is what we were told at the institute also, that in small ways practice the niyamas, practice certain values. Okay, so any thoughts? Shall we go to the next verse? So there were 4 qualities in this verse. So 7 and 4, that is 11. Then the 12.15 says, Yasmano Dvijat. Sir, would you like to read 12.15?
यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोको लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षामर्ष भयोद्वेगैर्मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः.
So, Yasmat na udvijate. Yasmano dvijate. That means from whom the others are not agitated. Because of whom people are not agitated. And lokaha. Then lokano dvijate cha yaha. The one who is not agitated by others. I don't agitate people and I don't get agitated by other people. So these are 2 qualities. Because of whom, because of someone, we don't get agitated. So we have to answer that to ourselves. Do we get agitated because of certain people? Or because of society, because of certain situations? Yasmano dvijate loko. The world is not agitated by such a person. Lokano dvijate cha yaha. Who is not agitated by the world? So world could be the situations, people, so many things, natural calamities. So we are not afflicted or disturbed or agitated by the world, and the world is not agitated by us. Then it says, Harsha, Amarsha, Bhayo, Udvegai. So these are 4 things. Harsha, Marsha, Bhayo, Udvegai, Mukto. Harsha is joy. Amarsha, envy or impatience. Bhay, fear. Udvegai, which is anxiety or distress. So I'm free from joy, I'm free from envy, I'm free from fear, and free from anxiety. So joy is there, but I take it, very calmly. I don't get excited. So I'm able to witness the joy, and there is no amarsh, there is no envy in me. There is no fear in me, and there is no anxiety. Anxiety is always for the future. So there is no anxiety. So basically, I am calm with whatever happens in the world. I don't get disturbed. So these are the qualities of a bhakta. A bhakta can be one who worships God in a form, or he can be one who does Nirgun worship, for whom everybody is same. So these are the qualities which are the same for both. So there is no difference. So shall we do 12.16?
So this is talking about 6 qualities.
अनपेक्ष शुचिर्दक्ष
Sorry,
उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारंभ परित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः.
yeah, sir, Mahendra sir, this talks about
Yeah.
qualities. Yasmano dvijate loko, lokan
Yeah.
lokano dvijate cha yah. That is 2 qualities.
2, correct.
Then harsha marsha bhayo dvaigar mukto. There he is free from these 4 qualities. So
Yes.
that's three points in total. Harsha marsha bhayo dvaigar mukto. So that is 1 quality.
Acha, okay.
It's 1
So
quality.
in the, okay, this is 1.
Yeah, he's free from joy, amarsh, bhai, and udvaigai.
This has been taken as 1.
Yeah, it has been taken as 1. Yeah, that's what the book does. Yeah, it takes it as 1. So, yeah. So we sir read the 16 shloka. Now it says anapeksha. Anapeksha, suchir, daksha, udasina, gatavyatha, sarva arambha parityagi. So now these are 6 qualities here. So we'll go one by one. Anapeksha. Anapeksha means he does not have any apeksha or any expectation from anybody. Okay, so this is my personal sharing. One day on New Year's, I went to Dr. Saab and I just said that the new year is beginning. Please, can you write something which I can follow in the new year? So he wrote to me, he wrote for me on a piece of paper. It was much more, but I'm just going to share one sentence. Don't expect anything from anybody, expect only from God. So don't expect anything from anybody, expect only from. So if I really want something, then my the person who I have to turn to is God. It has become a habit. Somewhere in 1999, it was quite some time back. So anapeksha, no expectation from anybody. So this can be practiced.
And I would say just as well, you know, because like in the earlier words also it is said that मैं ही सब चीज का सनातन कारण हूँ. So in any case, whether it comes through somebody or you know whichever way, it all comes from him. So might as well be direct.
It's true, but you see, when you in day-to-day life, you do expect certain at home. You know, you expect people to be okay on the road. You expect people to, you know, in the society to be conscious. These expectations are there. You expect the cleaner to clean well, or you expect so many things, you know, things to be kept in a way at home. Can you keep just go on? I don't know. I think we had this Gujarat girl in a group at the US. Very simple family of you know, kind of living. So she told us once, she used to share this very often, and it really, I started practicing it. She lived in a small hall house where she had a brother, bhabi, nephew, her parents, she and a sister. So they were about 7-8 people living in the house and 1 room hall. And she said once a week we had to follow this, that we would not tell anybody to do anything for us. She said if I was standing near the light switch and my father wanted the fan to be on, he would not tell me put it on. He would get up and put it on. If somebody wanted a glass of, if the doorbell rang, nobody would give instructions to another person in the house, but they would do it themselves. So that they practiced once a week. It was a fixed day, and So very often when I want something and it's very easy to tell somebody, I get up and I do it myself. These small things, these are small ways in which you can practice anapeksha. No expectation in small areas. Then Suchi. Shuchi is purity, Shaucha, practicing that internally and externally, as we have learned in the Yoga Sutra, and which we will learn again in the next half of in the next, after we finish the Bhagavad Gita sessions. Then Daksha. Daksha is dexterous, skillful,
Yes.
expert. So Daksha here also could be you're able to understand things easily. You're alert, you're an expert. Daksha. Like be dexterous, who's able to use both the hands well. So dexterous is something which is skillful. Somebody who's an expert, who's alert, who can do things efficiently. Then Udasina. This is the fourth quality in this verse. Udasina. Neutral, unconcerned, impartial, or indifferent. So these are the this is what is meant by Udasina. This Udasina word came in chapter 9 also, where the Purusha remains like a witness. He is indifferent. He just observes everything. It's like a mother will watch a child playing. Only when the child cries for help, the mother will go and rush. Otherwise, she's watching a child play. I think, Ashutosh sir, you had given this example that my son is, suppose my son is out to play and I'm just watching. I don't interfere unless I'm required to interfere. So can we watch things? Everywhere we don't need to interfere because it is not our duty to interfere in everything. We have our prescribed duty and we have to follow that. So Udasina. Gata Vyatha. Without fear or untroubled. Gata Vyatha. He's not distressed. Then Sarva Arambha Parityagi. Renouncing all undertakings. Sarva Arambha. I don't initiate things unnecessarily. Like a group of friends may meet and then may chat, and then suddenly one says, okay, now let's go out here. Or I may just start I may start happening. I may say, okay, let's go out here, or let's meet up another day, or let's do this. So at least I don't initiate unnecessarily, situations or things or events. This is in a smaller way. In a bigger way, I don't initiate anything. Whatever comes my way, I'm happy with that. This Sarvarambha Parityagi is going to come in the next chapters also. Not only in this chapter, chapter 13 also, and I think in 15, I'm not sure, but 13, of course, yes. Sarvarambha Parityagi. I think in 14 also, where he talks about the Gunatita, the qualities of the Gunatita. So, can we renounce all undertakings? And he says this, such a kind of a bhakta, Mad Bhakta, is priya to me, is dear to me. Quite difficult. The easy way would be to keep silent. So that would help, but keeping silence itself is not very easy. Okay. Shall we go to the next verse?
about the Sarvarambha Parityagi is difficult one to understand.
Okay.
Yes.
Sarvarambha Parityagi.
So,
So
how,
Gandhiji was asked this question once
huh,
at the time of partition,
huh,
that Gandhiji, you are yourself against partition,
hmm,
and now it is coming at our doorstep. So why don't you start a movement to stop partition?
hmm.
So Gandhiji said that I don't start any movements. I don't initiate any movement. It is the people's restlessness which makes them move. I can only give a direction of non-violence to that movement. But right now I realize I am one of the few people who don't want partition. People of India don't seem to be in that condition. So it is wrong to say that I initiate any movement. I simply provide a non-violent direction to people's movement.
Yeah.
So in that sense, though he was one of the most active persons,
Yeah.
and he brought the masses into freedom struggle,
Yeah.
yet he said that I am not doing it.
Correct.
I am only going in a particular way.
Yeah. True, sir. Very true. Now, how
Yeah,
apply it in our day-to-day life?
yeah. I think that's a very insightful statement by Gandhiji. In
Yeah.
any case, a true leader is one who channelizes, the aspirations of the energy of the people. Even the creation of a vision, for example, which is considered to be central to the leader's role. We talk about shared vision. So really, it is what the people want. It's just that it is framed, articulated, expressed, channelized in a manner which people can then go forward in terms of realizing. So, yeah, a very good example of
Yes.
how to bring this into practice is
Yeah.
Sarvaram Parityagi.
So you said this is to understand. Ashutosh, sir, you said it is difficult to understand Sarvarambha Parityagi, but you yourself gave an example.
Yes. So it means that I am observing myself and I am observing life, and life is itself taking a particular
Yeah.
movement,
Yeah.
and I don't have to say that I am doing this.
No.
I am initiating it. Will be the mistake. Will be the because I want it. Because I want it.
No, sir. It is not about you saying it. It is about you not initiating it. There are two different.
Thing that
Sorry.
if I say that I am initiating this, it is a mistake. That's what I'm saying.
Correct. But you should not initiate it only.
No, what I am doing is I am going with life. I am going with life in a particular way.
Yeah.
I am not life. I am not giving life to things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things already have a life of their own.
Correct. Yeah. Things happen on their own. It's a different thing. But I have any desire, and I don't sit down and initiate anything.
I think we are both saying the same thing. It is basically to embrace the flow of life, right? As things seem to be happening, we kind of move along with the current.
Right, right.
And within that, whatever, if something comes to our lot as a part of the flow, so which is where sir, as you said about Gandhiji, fits very beautifully that the people's energy is also a flow. And therefore, the just and right and proper duty of the leader is to really be able to, channelize that flow. So that's a win-win. Even people don't feel foisted upon, any view being thrust upon them, which is very, very important. Otherwise, there is suppression that can happen. And even more importantly, it doesn't lend, the leader's ego any boost. Really,
It's a great
But
example.
it doesn't mean that the leader is therefore inactive. Sarvarambha Parityagi doesn't mean that he's inert, inactive, passive, idle, not doing anything. That is not the case. But
yes.
he's doing what Yogastha Kuru Karmani.
Hmm.
He's doing what needs to be done.
Correct.
But, this example of Gandhiji is wonderful. But we have to bring it down to our life. Now, this would be okay, Gandhiji did it. What am I doing in my day-to-day life? You see, at the Yoga Institute, getting it down to a very small incident. In I don't know in which year, but the president then, Gyani Zail Singh, was going to visit the institute. Okay, now before the telephone at the institute was the telephone line was not working properly, and the instrument was also not okay. This is more than 20 years back or 30 years back. Now, Dr. Saab had sent somebody to the telephone exchange to exchange the instrument, but those people said, do it, but we will charge you 200 rupees. Now, 200 rupees was also quite a sum, and Dr. Saab said that he was not willing to bribe the person. He didn't say anything. He said, no, we don't want it, because it is supposed to be done by telephone exchange free of cost, and they should not charge us 200 rupees. So he left it at that. And he said, it's okay. Then came the president. And with the coming of the president, the telephone exchange people came themselves. They not only replaced the instrument, but they put one more new instrument. Because there were no mobiles in those days. The telephone had to be functioning properly with such a big institute. So he kind of waited. Now, this is an example of patience also. But you see, we don't initiate things, bribery. We don't initiate even good events or bad events. In my day-to-day life, am I able to stand as a witness? Am I able to take inspiration from Gandhiji or inspiration from some great person and remain quiet, and not go on being restless and start initiating things? People initiate. So many things are initiated all the time. So now he's talking about the doctor who's resigned. Dr. Saab had resigned. I'm not going to do this. Whatever happens. So these are difficult things. They're very difficult in day-to-day life. So
See, that's so. See, I think we're all saying the same thing. The distinction between what's a transactional kind of interaction and a more driven interaction. In life, we from morning to evening as we get up, obviously, many transactions take place. It's not that we put our heart into, kind of all of those. I mean, if we have to invite our neighbor over for a cup of tea, I may as well invite him. No, that's not, if we stop doing all of those things, that's not what one would call be able to live active. But what we are saying here is, I think, is that we submit to all that happens in life. Right? If my neighbor were to decline, it's not that I would be crestfallen. Arey, wo kyun nahi aaye, aisa kyun nahi? Haan, theek hai. There is a certain, give and take. So I did my duty of inviting, and thereafter, whatever happened, happened. Kind of fair enough. See, on the same light, like you related about Dr. Saab, I mean, Mr. Azim Premji, in 1978-79, Hindupur, they had started this, fluid power factory. And this is Andhra Pradesh. And, imagine late 70s. So those times, anyway, industrialists were looked upon with a lot of suspicion. So those people were not giving the electricity connection to the factory. So, he being what he is, and therefore Wipro being what it was in terms of ethics, especially at that time, he said, "No, we're not going to bribe." So they kept making representations, but still, local people, "Nahi, humko to chahiye." So then he took the decision of he will run it through generator. Doesn't matter if it's more expensive, whatever, but we will not submit to. Right. So I look at it again as holding steadfast in terms of a certain value, and thereafter allowing things to happen. I would see that also as in some way an illustration, and eventually, of course, like in the other instance, this also was granted. Right? So it's hold steadfast in yourself and your principles, and then flow with life, whether it brings bouquets, brickbats, delays, promptness, whatever. We just accept life as it is and move on. That's the way I would, in practical terms, pragmatic terms, would interpret Sarvarambha.
You're right, and I'm not kind of going against what you said, and it's not for argumentation, but I'm just saying when you gave example of calling my neighbor over for tea. See, in every kind of thing, I always what the examples which we gave in, with respect to others, we've heard of these examples, but I have just tried to imbibe in life by this Sarva Arambha Parityagi. You said that inviting my neighbor for tea. So now this is my practice now, that when I start initiating such kind of social meetings also, I wait. Is it going to interfere in my other activities? Is it necessary? Is it my dharma? Do I really need this kind of entertainment on this day? Or should I keep kind of entertainment for when I need it? Because see, this kind of social living is also required. But that has to be used at a particular time. The Purusharthas are there. The Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Kama also has to be used, but at an appropriate time. Do I really need it? Do I need my mind to be happy? Or should I just randomly invite because samne dikh gaye and I said, chalo, mood mein aa gaye. So what I'm trying to say is, can we go deeper in ourselves and overcome this kind of a restless attitude where I start new undertakings? This is where I'm coming to. In my day-to-day life, can I watch myself and can I not initiate things which are not appropriate for that time? I'm not saying, even Dr. Sabi, they used to call people over sometimes, but not every time. But that was also rarely when you felt that, in Dr. Saab's case, it always used to be whether that person opposite needed that kind of time and attention. So when to do things, always a big question. My only point was not to do things randomly and to do that also within the bounds of duty. That is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. No, what I'm saying is, when I'm saying inviting my neighbor, that doesn't mean restlessly or thoughtlessly inviting. But I'm saying under the best of conditions for desire, still one has to initiate, no?
Yes. But it doesn't have to be because of desire. Everything has to be under the concept of duty.
Exactly. That's the critical point. That's what I'm saying. You stay, yogastha, like sir mentioned. Yeah. Yes. Stay yogastha, and thereafter, whatever happens in the natural flow of things.
Yes.
Which would sometimes include initiation.
Yes.
Right? So let that happen.
Yeah. So within the boundaries of duty is fine. Otherwise, I would initiate things unnecessarily. So yeah, so then we come to this because we took so much time for the Sarva Arambha Parityagi because definitely this word is coming again. So we have anybody else would like to, otherwise we can move on to the next verse.
I think this is ethics by the word sarva, and sarva becomes important.
Yeah.
It is not always continuously that Arambha should be there. So what about occasional?
Uh,
It
actually,
is talking about Sarva. Sarva is very important word. It has been prefixed.
yes,
Sarvaram.
Sarvara,
So that
right,
so always should not be Aram.
exactly.
But when the occasion arises,
So in that case, see, my answer would be we are slowly and gradually moving on. At least the awareness has begun that I am not initiating it. Even Ji, when you say that, when a small example of calling somebody over, occasional also, I try not to initiate things as possible. Slowly over a period of time, I reach a state where there is no desire in me to start anything. There is just no desire. Whatever comes, there is no intellectual justification also. Okay, I needed it. This is required to maintain social contact. I need to. There is nothing. That also happens on its own. We have to reach definitely 100%. Sarva parityagi. Right, sir. Initially, it may be duty bound because I need it. I have to reach a point where I need anything. There is total non-expectation, no desire. I have become witness. I am gata, undisturbed, and there is no initiative by me. It's a difficult proposition. It's not going to happen. You just will.
But the other keyword which is in the middle is daksha. Anapeksha, shuchir, daksha. So daksha means I am attentive all the time. I am attentive.
Correct.
I am alert. It is not that I have completely withdrawn from the world. I am still in the world, but I am not of that world.
Yes, I am awareness and alertness. You're constantly aware. No, sir, we can't forget the principle. Total awareness is alertness. No point am I not in alert or not alert. I'm always in a state. I'm alert.
I am anapeksha, shuchir, udasin, gatavyatha, but I am not inert. I am alert. That is what is very important in this verse, so far as my understanding goes.
Correct, correct. You're right, sir. You're right, yeah.
And see, even Lord Krishna's whole conduct during the Mahabharata, Lord Krishna is obviously explaining these things to Arjuna. If we see his own conduct, it's not that he didn't, in quotes, initiate, but he is the Lord himself. So what desire can he have? Right? So when he did it, it is not with a sense of wanting to gain something or with a desire-based kind of. He in his sense of what as an avatar or whatever needed to be done at the moment may require some initiative to take place, but it's just in the nature of the dharma of that moment ask for that. So therefore we see, which is why I think sir made a very important distinction between inertness and alertness. So yes, I feel that yes, all of this, and as you also rightly said, don't initiate for the sake of initiating. That's right. That's so very important, because 90% of the time when our alertness is not high and we are kind of little, then we just do things mindlessly, and we rather, and then we reap the awards, rewards, whatever of that, and it becomes a very vicious circle. That's right. But the assumption here is, see, all of this is in chapter 12. So we've talked about Nishkamta and we've talked about Jnana before this. So it's assumed that, we do it from a sense of duty and with alertness. But having imbibed those qualities, right, now we remain tatastha in terms of what happens So without not karma-led actions, including initiation, but only in the fitness of that moment or of things is when the other way I could express just simply that let it be transactional. It's something that needs to be done without your heart rooting for it.
The literal translation, as in the book, it talks about who renounces the sense of doership in all undertakings. I think this is what is the translation that says about who renounces. That means renunciation is talking about inaction. This sarva rambha parityagi, does it equivalent to renunciation in fruit of action? The translation says so. Who renounces the sense of doership in all undertakings.
I think we went further in for discussion with 13.
This is something, the important word has been used here.
Yeah. So I go on to the next verse and then we'll come back to this later.
Because, karta ham iti manyate. It is talking about those people, karta ham iti manyate. There is a that it has been used earlier also.
Yeah.
यो न रिष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न कांक्षति शुभाशुभ परित्यागी भक्तिमान यस्य मे प्रियः.
So it is yon rishyati. One who does not rejoice. Na dveshti, not hate. Na he does not believe. Kankati, no desire. Shubha Shubha Parityagi. Where he says Sarva Arambha Parityagi, it says Shubha Shubha. And Bhaktiman, full of devotion. So, Dona Rishyati does not rejoice. Everything is happening according to plan. And what is that to rejoice? He takes Madveshti. He does not agree for anything, Nashoti. And then Shubha Shubha Parityagi. He renounces good and evil. And he's full of devotion. Now, these are qualities which now the Adveshta, we began with Adveshta. So they are again kind of or stressed upon, or we can take them in another light. But he has brought in these again. Yo na rishyati, na dveshti, na shochati, na kankshati, and then Shubha Shubha Parityagi. So I think we can just go through them and try and see what all we can practice. Read 12 point. Samashatrau cha mitrich.
समशत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखेषु समसंग विवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दा स्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेत स्थिरमतिर् भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः.
So he says, Shatrau cha mitre cha. I'm equal to my enemy and I'm equal to my mitra. I don't hate enemy. I may stay away from the enemy, but I don't hate the enemy. In fact, it's not talking पूछा कि डॉक्टर साहब अगर सांप आ जाए तो क्या करना है? सो he said भाग जाना है और क्या करना है? So so, so you don't have to just hang around. Enemy है तो move away, but don't hate the enemy. Sama shatro cha mitre cha tatha mana apanayo. That means sama in mana and apman also. And shito shana sukha dukheshu. In sheet and ushna. In heat and cold. In pleasure and pain, you're the same. And free from attachment. Viparjita. You're free from attachment to any of these. Nothing. You're not attached to anything. You're not attached to your friend, or you're not attached to man or sukh or any kind of pleasure. Or you can take it separately. You are balanced with your enemy and friend. You are balanced in man and apman. You're balanced in heat and cold, and in pleasure and pain, and you are without any attachment. Sangha Vivarjita. Then he says, Tulya Ninda Stuti. If you're praised or you're blamed, you're balanced. You can take the blame, you can take the praise also, even-mindedly. You don't get when you're praised, and you don't get dejected when you're blamed. Santushto yen kenchut. Before that we have Mauni. Maun, the one who is restrained in speech, silent. Then Santushta yena kenachit. Santushta yena kenachit means you're content with anything. With whatever comes your way, you're content. Santushta yena kenachit. Like Vinoba says, when there's salt in the vegetable, or the vegetable is served to you without salt, you quietly eat it, or you quietly go up and pick up the salt and add it. But you don't complain, you don't grumble. Santushta yena kenachit. Aniketa. The one who has no niketan, aniketa. He has no place of residence, or he is not attached to his residence. His mind is sthir, firm. Sthiramatir. Bhaktan mein pritonara. So we are not in Bhaktiman. This finishes 36 virtues. He's full of So with that, we finish the qualities of a Bhakta. And now we have our last. Shall we read it? Any other comments for this verse or previous verse? So anything to say, or shall we move on to the next?
ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदं यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्धधाना मत्परमा भक्तास्ते अतीव मे प्रियाः.
So he said, Ye tu dharmya amrutam. This is an amrit of dharma, a nectar. So we'll see what the devotees, however, who partake in a disinterested way of this of pious wisdom set forth above, endowed with faith and solely devoted to me, they are extremely dear to me. So he says, Dharmya Amrutam. So he's given an Amrit, the nectar, this immortal Dharma, which has been explained here. The people with faith who follow this Dharma, who have full faith in this Dharma, who by all the qualities from mentioned earlier. There is no intellectual justification, nothing. I simply follow whatever is told and I see the benefit of it. If I start following, then only will I see the full benefit of it. If I stand at a distance, then I will find, my mind will start running and start justifying or following, finding faults or any kind of discrepancies in what. But he says the one with full faith, Shraddha Dhana, who has me as a supreme goal, that bhakta ativa me priya, extremely dear to me. He's using the word extremely dear to me. So he's asking us to follow this dharma completely. Paryupasate, that means with supreme kind of devotion. So he says, Ye tu dharya amritam itam yathokam paryupasate shraddhadhana mat parma bhakta eva me priya. Priyaha. Exceedingly dear to me. So he put our mind at rest. He says, simply follow what I have told you, and you will be dear to me.
In the earlier verses, the Lord is saying that you should be equally poised towards friends as well as foes. Tamashatraucha mitrecha. Then why is he making some disciples closer to him? Ativa priyaha. Let everyone be equally priya to him. Is he not himself going against his own advice?
Yes, sir, very true. Sir, you alone answer this question.
Sir, this is Lord Krishna. He goes against himself so very often.
It's a good question. What is your answer to it? Maitra, would you like to answer this question?
Very difficult. See, 36 characteristics, that too with Shraddha and that too with faith. If there is no faith, 36 gone. No Shraddha, 36 gone. So one should have complete faith and devoted with 36 qualities. I don't know where we are, where we stand out here.
So I think it is something like this. So as a teacher in a class, okay,
Yes.
we may be, equally inclined to all the students. We may not have favorites. We can do that, right? Despite that, each student, on account of his or her own curiosity and keenness and other qualities, are able to relate to us, in different manners, and therefore are able to take advantage of us to different, or our teaching to a different degree. So I'm saying, even if I remain equally available to all, yet my relationship with different people will be different on their account. So those who can imbibe these 36 qualities or part thereof to whatever degree, right, would be dearer to the Lord, not because the Lord doesn't want to be dearer to them, but because they don't manage to qualify because of their own readiness, if they are not able to imbibe these qualities.
God says that Arjun, among the Pandavas, am Arjun. See, the Lord is a non-interfering spectator. He's a witness. So we get closer to him by following these things. The more I closer I get to him. I become like him. In the next chapter, it says that you just become like me. They attain me. They become like my being. They become like me. So I become one with the Lord. So it is my endeavor. When I go on practicing this, I get closer to him. So I become dearer to him. For him, everybody says, I take a step forward towards him. Only I will be dearer to him. I become like him. Then I become one with him. When I follow all this completely. For the Lord, everybody is what it's saying, but because of our things, we are further away or closer to him. That's why he says every. Okay, so with this, we will conclude chapter 12 today. And we can begin chapter 13, or maybe we can keep it for next time. It's a totally different kind of approach in chapter 13. So we have 7 minutes.
Om, but let me recite the last part. Om Tatsaditi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Bhakti Yogo Nama Dvadashodhyaya.
Today be very pure and holy, like a place of pilgrimage, which has to be read again and again. These verses have to be memorized. So, yeah. Now, whatever you wish, we can begin the next chapter.
Yeah, we can go on if that is okay.
If it needs to be discussed further in chapter 12, we can go on.
I mean, yeah, we've reached a real milestone now. In that, the bhakti, the karma, jnana, bhakti, now all three of the basic themes have been explored. So with the completion of chapter 12, in many ways, we've arrived at the. It's the beginning of the end. Okay, let's put it that way. All the core things have, I think, now found articulation.
It has divided 3 parts: karma, bhakti, and jnana. So we finished karma and bhakti. We finished 1/3. Like 1/3 is left over now. We finished 2/3. We finished karma function. Though of course we can't separate the 3, but technically karma was in the first 6 chapters. The next 6 chapters began with bhakti, and now the last 6 chapters will be with knowledge, with jnana. So we will rest 1/3 of the left. Okay, so this Gita Press book does not have another verse. The Gita has 700 verses, but in some of the Gita, there are 701 verses. So that one verse, which is, I have written down, which starts Arjun. Now, chapter 13 starts with Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, but chapter 13 in some books has 35 verses and starts with Uvacha. Purusham Cheva Shram Shrenyam Bhatta Etat Veditum Ich Jnanam Gneyam Chakeshava. So Arjun is having this question that I want to know about Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetra, Kshetragnya, Jnana, and Gneyam. That means I want to know about the Prakriti, the Purusha, the Kshetra, the field, Kshetragnya, the one who knows the field, and I want to know about knowledge and what should be known, what should be the object of knowledge. I wish to know these things. Keshav, please explain these 3 things to me. And so begins with 13.1, where, so will you read that, 13.1? We'll just read it. We have 4 minutes. Yes, sir. Shri Bhagavan.
Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. इदं शरीरं कौन्तेय क्षेत्रम् इति अभिधीयते एतद् यो वेत्ति तं प्राहुः क्षेत्रज्ञ इति तद्विदः.
So the Lord says this body, Arjun, is termed as the field, Kshetra. And he who knows it, called the Kshetrajna, the knower of the field. By the sage discerning the truth about both. So in this chapter, there's going to be a difference between Prakriti and Purush, between the body and the soul, between the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna. Whatever we call it, whatever name we give it, but there are two distinct entities. There is a Purusha, there is a Kshetra, and the Kshetra is this body, this field, and what is this body and what is the Kshetra will be explained in detail in the next verses. So as of now, today we only understand that there is a field and there is a knower field. We have 3 minutes or 2 minutes rather. Shall we read? So you can read it.
Arjuna Kvacha is also there.
क्षेत्रज्ञं वाक्चापि मां विद्धि सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञयोर्ज्ञानं यत् तद् ज्ञानं मतं मम.
So he says, know yourself to be the Kshetrajna, soul. In all the Kshetras, there is a Kshetrajna. And it is the knowledge of this Kshetra and the Kshetrajna, the matter and the evolutes, which I consider as true knowledge. So what is highest knowledge? The knowledge of the Kshetrajna and the Kshetra. What is Kshetra? What is this body? What is this Prakriti? And what is the Kshetrajna? What is the soul? What is the knower of the Purusha or the knower of the field, the Kshetrajna? So this is the knowledge which we should know, and this is the true knowledge. You can read one more verse, just.
No, but I think very important that knowledge of the knower, Kshetrajna. Kshetrajna jnanam. Kshetrajna's knowledge is also, and Kshetra's knowledge.
Yeah.
Together is jnanam.
Yeah.
This is, I think, the Eastern tradition.
Yeah.
That we don't only talk about the world outside, but we also talk about the knower.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I think we will discuss at length in the next class, because now it will be a very abrupt kind of ending. So yeah, now the next class we are going to be discussing about in detail about this field and the knower of the field. Okay, so we'll end today's session here. We'll begin with next time. Thank you. See you at 10:30. Namaste.
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 Sunilji, I may not be in the next class.